Welcome to another episode of Build It Faster. We are your hosts, Mike and Joe. Who is this? Who is this with
Hey,
us? This isn't one of
folks.
your hosts, Mike and Joe. This is
Josh Mabry here. Welcome, Josh Mabry. Thanks for having me. No,
Welcome.
it's
Welcome
it's exciting
back.
to see you guys.
But it's a
Josh. You
new
were you were
show.
here. You were first. We were within the first 10 episodes of Pattern Practice is when we first got to talk to you. Man, it's been a minute.
Yeah, I think it was like episode 9 or something.
Oh my
The
goodness.
first one. Yeah, 3 years ago. It's wild.
That's crazy. Has anything happened since then?
Not
Or-
really. It feels like it was
Yeah.
just yesterday.
It does.
Excited to
Does
catch
feel
up
pretty
with you
recent.
guys and see what you've been doing for the last couple of days. But
Well, we've
yeah,
been
no,
doing-
it's been wild. It's been quite the adventure. Lots of fun stuff to learn and experiment with, and the normal ups and downs of life to add to that fun adventure. So, yeah, excited to be back and chat with you guys about what's going on and catch up in the space. It was quite a new frontier when we first started hanging out, 3 years ago. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what
Oh
you guys been up
man.
to.
I'm curious, Josh, before we get into anything specific that you've been thinking about or working on, just in general, like, what are the vibes? What are your vibes now? It's been, like you say, like we just talked about, it's been probably a couple years since we first spoke and since this first started popping off and was a big deal. It was really exciting. A lot of unknowns then. I think a lot of unknowns became knowns. We've got probably a lot of new unknowns. Like, what do you feel right now? Like, what kind of things are exciting you? What kind of things are maybe making you nervous about where we're at now?
Sure. Well, I think it's really exciting to finally see the things we were talking about 3 years ago really come into the forefront, right? A lot of the agentic systems we were, starting to think about and talk about, and just some of the larger ideas of orchestrating the systems are now in a place where it's real. It feels like it's kind of beyond the hype in some directions, and of course still plenty of hype in other directions because that's the nature of tech and new technology and things. But yeah, it's really exciting and also really scary, right? I mean, I'll be real, like it's an unknown, right? And as we've kind of said over the last few years in conversation, it's just been important to us, to me. I don't necessarily want to speak for y'all, but it's been important to me to kind of just keep a finger on the pulse and keep studying and working with these systems, because one day I knew they were going to pay off. It was going to pay off, and they were going to come kind of to where it is now, where it feels like it is a productive set of systems that we can really work with and
Yeah.
take hold of. But
Get some real value out of.
yeah,
Does anything stand out to you, bro, as like a dark horse that you didn't see coming 3 years ago? Any whether it's a feature or an application of the technology, just anything that you're like, man, we were talking, there was a lot of hype, there were a lot of things we were looking forward to, but one thing I did not have on my radar was
Sure.
this. I'm curious.
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to try to say I'm some kind of visionary or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff was like feels par for the course. I think just the speed at which a lot of it happened in
Okay.
some areas was pretty surprising. I think one of the big ones for me were like some of the world models and like video things. I don't know if you've seen the Sea Dream 2.0 that just released this week. Highly recommend we throw a link in the description for that. It's pretty scary what AI video is capable of and how easily it just grabs an IP and makes it its own, and how convincing it is, right? I think we're already seeing that on social media and things where people just, I don't know, the truth has always been hard to filter through, and I think it's becoming harder now. But I don't know if that was necessarily any dark horse. I kind of
Yeah, I know
felt
what
like
you're
something was
saying.
coming, but definitely the speed at which it's happening is just like, wow, it's a bit awe-inspiring, and I don't think we're at the top of that curve yet. So
Speed is an interesting topic because I feel like, in one sense, you could easily say like, "Wow, this is all happening so fast," and in another sense, you can say, "Has it really been like 3 years?"
Right.
Has it anything even happened? And of course, a lot has happened. And like you said, we've got much more powerful models now, a lot more user adoption. But is it really? Are things really changing quickly? Are we still moving at lightning speed, or is this like, we're plateauing, or
no, I think
Yeah.
it just depends where you're at in the ecosystem and how close you are to how the sausage is made, right? Like Right now, we're seeing developers working. I mean, I mean to kind of jump ahead a little bit, like, some of the stuff I've been working on, I just went in a week, I went from doing 30, 40 commits a day to 150, 200 commits a day, all fully, powered by AI and running through full CI testing, all like rigorous development practices, right? And so I think with any of these technologies, you see the developers latching on first, building out tools to help them work faster, and then that starts to spread out to the other consumers, right? And you start to see then in project in the project development space, and then the go to market space, right? And then the everyday users. You see that with like cloud work and things like that, right? So I think, yeah, that's where I see it at now, and I think any of the bubbles that are around or discussions around bubbles are just kind of, I don't know, a bit of hopium, I think, or maybe copium. I don't know. It depends what side of the aisle you're on. But I think from where I sit, I'm just full steam ahead. I've unlocked this last week. I've unlocked so many things that, yeah, I don't see this stopping anytime soon. It's just a matter of how much time do I have, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, Joe,
Joe, you're muted.
we don't got you.
Thank you. I got to
There he
second this
is.
because in my own work, I've been telling people I'm full bull. Like I have no I'm not like, oh, it's almost maybe, no, it's just I'm not good enough, okay, is where I'm feeling right now. Like I'm underserving the models, okay, if they're not doing all of it, is how far I think it's gotten. So uh I'm right there with you, Josh. Not to put
Yeah.
those specific words in your mouth, but like I am full tilt all the way sold on it being so
No,
full, yeah, full steam ahead and accelerating. Where it's not like, oh, we
absolutely.
can finally do it all, we've reached top speed. No, we're still, I don't know what terminal velocity looks like. I don't know what it looks like.
Well, I was thinking about it before hopping in a call. It's crazy to think. Yeah, because I'm in the same boat. I mean, so yeah, when we first started chatting 3 years ago, I was copy and pasting code between ChatGPT interface and Unity. I was using it to write C sharp stuff, right? And that was what 3.5 ChatGPT 3.5. It had like a 8K context. I don't remember how small that was, but there was a lot of context management now, right? And then as of this summer, with the 4.5 Sonnet 4.5 model specifically, my trust in these systems became to just like accelerate, and I got to the point where I was just copy and pasting code back and forth. I've got CodeRabbit doing code reviews for me, so I was reviewing code, it copy and pasted that, and that's basically what I've unlocked this last week. Is I don't have to manually do any of that anymore. That's all automated within this system. Now I just get to focus on orchestrating and ideas and just making sure the system is functioning as it needs to be, right? I don't have to micromanage code anymore. And it's unlocked a lot. And that's, yeah. So to answer your question, Mike, I think maybe it just depends where you stand, right? Like, I'm curious to hear kind of from you. Joe and I are obviously both devs and really close to these systems. And I know being friends with the both of us and, and people and stuff, you're obviously assaulted with all the information we throw at you, and I'm just kind of curious, like where you stand, where you see it, and how you're leveraging it in your kind of day to day.
That's a great question. I'm definitely, if Joe is under leveraging it, I am a travesty. But it's interesting. I have kind of conflicting feelings. In one sense, I think I'm almost bored by it. Like I'm almost over encumbered by news that doesn't really seem to change anything in my life, at least. And so I see a lot of engineers get excited about the latest model, about the latest release of this and that. And I'm kind of like, all right, well, like what's like actually new? It's like, it's so much better, bro. And I'm like, oh, well, what I mean, but what, in what way? There's so many tokens, dude. So much context, man. And
Right.
it's been a lot of that for the last few years. And in that sense, I'm kind of like maybe bored isn't a little burnt out on it. And it's like, let me know when we've got some real news, so that's one feeling. I love Joe's eyebrows here.
He
The
wants
other
some
feel,
news, Josh. He wants some news.
the other feeling is, I am excited by it. I do use it constantly, and I am always looking for new opportunities to leverage whatever tools I have at my disposal. There was a cool example recently where Joe and I have been talking the last few weeks about our body of work, and we're trying to leverage LLMs to help us create more content and value out of that body of work. And I've started doing a similar thing in my personal hobbies, like going through what is now a multi-year collection of like little small stories and photographs and trying to put together, find kind of common threads and put together themes and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of fun, and it's cool, even though in a way it's noisy. In another way, it's cool that there's so many different options and so many different models available now, because I'm able to kind of just fire away the same prompt across 5 different models, 5 different tools, and just kind of see how they respond. So super exciting to me in that sense. And I think it's controversial, or maybe I know it's controversial, but things like media creation, making music, making videos, those things excite me. I know that there are copyright concerns. I know that there's infinite slop that we could generate. You may be concerned about brain rot with a lot of this stuff, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome how much cool stuff normie can create using some of these tools. And so that really gets me going. Yeah, I think that's kind of my answer.
No, I think that's kind of spot on where I've seen it, and kind of like circling back to the analogy earlier, right? It's kind of like how close you are to that landmark, right? We're all flying towards the horizon at the same speed, but the closer to the landmark, the faster that thing seems to be flying by, right? And I think as developers, those windows are just flying by, and we're just holding on by the seat of our pants. And so, yeah, I mean, I've had those moments where I just kind of get bored with it. I'm waiting for, poking it, like, come on, do something,
Yeah.
And those points are just the training cycles, right? Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're like, holy crap, look at this advancement. It's because automation doesn't work in public. It's not a build in public thing. Automation happens behind the scenes, and those systems come together quietly. But once they come together and they start producing, it's everything all at once, right? And that's when you see the real liftoff. And so many people are waiting for that liftoff, waiting for that quick return. But man, if you take the time and start applying these practices and learnings that we've gained over years and years of product development, game development, all these systems, like we can apply these to these intelligent generative systems and just make something that is, many, many times our own capabilities, right? And I'm kind of where Joe is, where I'm trying to figure out how to best serve the models, right? They've surpassed my intelligence. I'm just trying to nudge, direct, and use my own understanding of the world to guide them. But ultimately, I'm just an idea deliverer, right? I deliver the ideas, the problem space, and they execute, right? And so in that sense, I'm, just kind of the technical director, the CTO. I'm building a digital organization at this point, a digital agency.
Well, let's talk more about that. Rumor on the street
Digital
is
agency. Oh man.
Yeah, that's pretty special. Rumor on the street is you got a product in the works.
Yeah,
What
I don't
can you
know
tell
if I
us
want
about that.
Yeah, I've got I might have clipped there. I've got a few things in the works. But I'm not necessarily looking to. I know I've got some products and things I would like to put out, but it's more of I'm interested in just teaching people how to work better and faster with these systems, right? I'm looking to start sharing my workflows and my ideas around these systems more publicly. Now that I don't have to hammer away at a keyboard trying to code the next thing, like I've spent the last 3 years doing, like I can now step back and kind of take more time to, just share my learnings and get out there and kind of build some communities. I would like to push to do some product hunt launches or something with my system going forward. But right now, the main focus is the system. And over the last week, it's been building itself. And so I've got 200 commits in this.
Hey, would you mind even just walking us through, how you got to this point? I mean, last time we talked to you, you were working on acai.so, LOL.
Sure.
So I
I guess
don't know
it
if you
has
want to go
been
that full of a history
that
before you
long.
get to the juicy stuff. Maybe tease it, but I was interested in that eventually.
Yeah, of course. So that was a couple years ago now. That was one of I've got many different projects in the pile that I've worked on over the years and just kind of exploring the space and leaning into things. But the space is moving so quickly that it kind of your idea in 6 months becomes just a common trait in just the LLM itself, right? And so I think being agile and being able to pivot quickly and just building these systems that are robust enough to adapt to new learnings and new research as it comes in right? And so that's what I've been building a lot recently. Kind of working around what Mike, you, Joe, were talking about around content creation, generating data. So I've been playing around a lot with that, and then just kind of working with agentic flows. But as of the last month, I started really leaning into Cloud Code and their whole agentic building system and the agentic SDK. And then last week, I met up with our friend Ofer Shaw, and he kind of showed me some things around the space. And I'd been a bit siloed for the last couple of months, just kind of working on my stuff and getting some IRL things taken care of. So yeah, he introduced me to this system called Automake, which was produced by a development team. I will have to find their actual team name, but Automaker is the system they made in order to help themselves work faster. And essentially, it's a full, AI tooling platform. But what I'm really leveraging it for is its Kanban system. So months ago, I had this idea around, just wanting to build these development practices into the agentic systems, right? Having a Kanban board, having the, some form of agile rituals, obviously plugging in a CI/CD, code reviews, all that stuff, how to automate all those pieces. Because as I've said, I've been just manually copying and pasting across across apps and different LLMs and things to get it done. So obviously that was a big undertaking to try to produce this Kanban board. But anyways, this company did it, and I looked at it, and it was exactly what I had been picturing for months. So I pulled it in, and I knew exactly what needed to happen, and I started that day a week ago, and I haven't stopped since. Like I said, it's about 200 commits a day, and we're on 220, the 222nd PR.
He says.
Because in the background, it's still working, so it's been going for an hour and 14 minutes at this point, and is basically, so how it works is you've got the Kanban board, which has already built in this kind of automated system that the other team had put together. But what I've been doing over the last week is basically making it more robust and improving itself so that it can, in fact, run the dev server while it's working on the dev server and update the dev server while it's live, right? So it's self-improving itself while it's live. And that required a lot of kind of work around the system, make sure the kind of concurrency was working, and make sure there were some circuit breakers so I wasn't blowing up too much, using too much memory and crashing the server. That was happening quite a bit. But yeah, so over the last week, it slowly has been building itself, creating its own features and pipelines, and iterating upon that to make itself better. So essentially, I have a project manager, product director that I can asked to do things, and it manages this board. It can there's agents actually working on these different tickets. It's going in PR, full CI/CD, and Ava, which I'm still calling it, y'all might remember from the
Yes.
original days. Ava is managing this whole system and actually goes in and talks to individual agents based off the PRs that come in from CodeRabbit, which is a system that's just, its sole purpose is to review code. And it's an amazing system. Highly recommend CodeRabbit. It's free for open source. But essentially, my code gets pushed up in a full CI/CD pipeline using stack PRs and all the sanitary things that we've come to know and love in that world. And it waits for the CodeRabbit PR feedback. It decides if it's valid feedback, reviews that, commits it, and then it gets pushed through all auto merge. And so this whole pipeline is fully now functioning and automating itself. And so now I can start expanding out, start building like a GTM team, start building some other systems that it interacts with to kind of now expand the organization, essentially. So yeah, let me go ahead and just, that was a lot of talking. Let me go ahead and share a screen, and you can kind of see some of the stuff in action. But yeah, please ask away while I'm getting set up.
Well, one of my questions I wanted to sneak in here was, what so far are you what so far are you most proud of the team for pulling off? Made you go, wow, great job, guys. Just.
Man, that's tough. I really haven't had a whole lot of time to digest some of these things because I've just been working so constantly over this last week. So I have been collecting tons of anecdotes and screenshots and things, but I guess I didn't really prepare for that specific question. There's been so many moments that have just like, I've just been awestruck, really. So, well, here, let's just kind of walk through it, and I think maybe we can kind of experience some of those awestruck moments together. So, Can you all see the board? Okay, is it coming through? Okay.
Yeah, and don't deliberately share something you're gonna make me clip.
Oh, like yeah, no, no, that's yeah. Don't worry,
I'm
everything's pretty
just half
sanitary.
teasing, half
So
teasing.
that's well, that's why I'm not. Sorry, that's why I'm not going to show you guys the terminal too much because I don't know exactly what's coming through that side there. Okay, cool. So yeah,
And just
so what
rotate
you
your keys, you'll be fine.
right? Yeah, I've had to do that once already. That's why the repo is private. I'm going to open source it, but I need to clear the Git history. Just some PII, nothing too bad, just some email of mine. Okay, so yeah, this system, at this point, I don't really know where it was when I forked it and what we've added in totality, but I can kind of point you around at some of it here. So essentially what you see is a standard Kanban board. And I can add a feature here and have this work through the pipeline normally, but my whole thing here is I'm offhands. This is for the team. This is what they work with. And I just, wait for the input and feedback. I haven't got it fully, the pipeline fully dialed in, but I'll be working from a linear board, managing the products at a high level there. And then basically those get taken in here. This is also connected to Discord, so I get stand-ups, I get development updates, I get infrastructure updates, and then we do retros. So we figure out what worked, what didn't, and we apply that to our next sprints. So full Agile practices,
Retros.
which I thought y'all would be very excited
I
about. So
love that
yeah.
you're doing retros with your agents. I'm jealous.
So one thing we've had here, I think this is a visual bug, but it'll pick models based off of the complexity of the task, right? So right now it says all Opus 4.5, but I think again that's just a visual bug because under the hood it'll pull in Sonnet or Haiku just depending on the task. We did add cost analysis, so it analyzes the cost of the API. So now we are tracking cost per feature. So each of these tickets now we see this at 329. We got 27 cents. We got the complexity. Oh, and so basically, let's start from the top here. So I can give Ava a research topic, a project idea I want. They go into a deep research mode, research the project, research the internet for comps and comparable research, and then from there, Spark PRD is created. So it's creates this comprehensive PRD going over the situation and the problem space,
Spark
etc.
PRD.
Huh? Spark. Yes. SPARC. Ofer introduced it to me, and I'm going to butcher the acronym, so please look it up and tell us when you find it. But basically, so it creates that PRD. It does an antagonistic review of that, so it passes it through a model that just has the context and the PRD, or the task and the PRD, and it gives it constructive feedback based off that. Updates the PRD there. From there, once that PRD is approved, then it gets passed to the product manager that then separates those into milestones and phases and creates those tickets on the board and makes a whole dependency chain. So it's an epic that has a dependency for all the work. So it can't start tickets that are up the dependency chain until those tickets are resolved. And then from there, the work gets started, right? And that's all automated. It gets moved through the pipeline here. And as you can see, we're kind of waiting because we're waiting for reviews to come in, but it's checking. These look like errors. It's because the way the output happens in Claude. But what it's doing is looking at all the PRs that are up right now. Right now, it's got 5 that are passing and 1 that's pending. So it's waiting for the CodeRabbit review. So right now, it's just kind of going into a sleep loop. So it pauses for a couple minutes, and then it'll check it once it wakes back up and see if it's ready. And if not, it'll sleep again, check it again. Over here, you can actually see stuff kind of running. So we've got the auto mode, but I've added all sorts of health checks. So it's constantly checking, are there PRs that need review? Are there any bugs in the system? Are there any alerts that need to happen? Does Josh have any tasks on hand that we need to account for? It checks Discord channels. Are there any new messages in these specific channels? And then it operates based off that world state and what the expected world state is, right? So it's constantly kind of trying to readjust for the stable world state that we've set up and are expanding on. So anyways, that was a lot of chatting. So I want y'all to ask any questions you have. Right now, there's not much going on the board, but you can see these tickets moving through as it's working, but it's just waiting on reviews at this point. So
waiting on review. Is the wait because you only have a certain number of agents employed? Like if you wanted to wait less time, what would you need to do?
It's just about the code that's being reviewed, right? So there's an AI agent reviewing the code up in the cloud, and so it just depends how much code there is and how complex the review is. It's no, it's the same. I can go on there and add review and add feedback, and it'll take that feedback and process it as well, right? It's a normal dev cycle. So how long does it take the person to review it? How nitpicky are they? How much stuff do they want to go back and forth on, right? It's obviously this all happens a lot quicker because AI doesn't have a lot of the, ego and all the stuff that kind of gets in the way sometimes of development. So, but yeah, I mean, we're just adapting, adapting standard development practices and sanitary flows to these agentic systems, right?
Forgive me if you already said so, Josh, but was this Kanban board tool you're using, which if anyone's listening and can't see it, it looks like you're looking at Jira, is this something that was made for humans and you've adapted it to agentic use, or is it something that was made for agentic use and you've continued to build on top of it?
Yeah. So we can share. This is an open source system, Automake, and then I've just taken it and expanded on it with my own ideas. And
right, but was it so Automake actually, as a name, kind of implies that it was maybe made for agents? Is that the case? So
yeah,
and where I was going to go with that is like, I love the feature that tells you the cost per feature. That's really, really interesting. And I imagine if this tool was built for agents, that was maybe something native in the tool, or did you add that?
No, that was one of the features we've added. So basically,
Hell
yeah. So I've taken
every
this,
time.
I've taken the system from Automake a week ago, and like I said, you can go on and grab it now, and there's a lot of this functionality in place. But what I've done is first step was I took and built an MCP server on it, so then I could control it through Claude Code, right? So basically, you can see all these Automaker. I have a plugin that I wrote. That Claude Code is now able to go into and interact with that board, so I don't have to touch it at all, right? I do all my interactions through here. So that was the first kind of a lot of the work in this past week, was just making that whole pipeline stable, where it could work on itself, create product features for the app that's running it now, right? So as we're working, this on the right is the server running it. On the left is Ava's process running. And right now it's no pending work, board's clear, session summary. So it tells us what we shipped. So what we added next, or are adding next, I have to do all the testing, of course. One of the things you'll find when you plan stuff with AI or subsequently have the work done is they estimate things in human hours, right? You get a project and it goes, this is going to take 3 weeks. And you're like, cool. And then an hour later it's done, right? And then it goes, cool, we worked on that for about 12 hours, right? And you're like, no, that was, whatever, 45 minutes. So what I've long wanted is a way to track that stuff. So then we can actually now track burn rate. We can track the capacity of the team, and we'll be able to track, how many resources we essentially can move between projects, because this doesn't just manage a single project. That Kanban board can manage multiple projects within this code base. So this is just a test one that came with it, but I have essentially a setup labs command now that I can go into other projects and set up this full system, this full plugin, and now that project is essentially under our umbrella as an agency, right? And so then they'll have its own Discord channel that'll be piping in updates for that project. And if anybody on that project needs to check on updates, they go to those channels that are relevant, right? So now we have shared contacts at Discord. I've made it, when I say this is an agency, right? This is now a full agency, and it is just expanding literally by the minute, right?
The we is too good, man. The Borg over here of the we, and he means it. He's not just being cute. He's literally thinking like, all right, team, what are we gonna do? And it's not even that it's his team. He's on the team. He's over there they're slapping him around. I understand.
We have an org chart.
Yeah.
We have an org chart.
I have a question burning on my mind right now. So what you just described, Josh, sounds a lot like basically taking a development team and being able to scale it up and down like you would cloud resources, like cloud compute. You're able to like, oh, I need a stronger team this week. We're doing a lot this week. I have 10 agents working for me this week, but next week, quiet week, and I'm going on vacation. I'm just going to have 2 agents plucking away at a couple of the things while I'm gone.
Sure.
And that kind of thing is incredible. That's not even a question. The question that I have actually is, and a bit for both of you really, Joe, you might recall from the pattern book, 2 patterns that come to mind: stable teams and small teams. And with humans in particular, that's important because small teams, you have tighter relationships, stronger relationships, and less complexity. And with stable teams, it sort of amplifies that. You're able to keep those strong relationships. You're able to sort out the complexity and then have a smoother relationship for the long longevity of the team. How does that impact an agentic team? Are those patterns no longer relevant? Or is there relevance to those patterns in that it's like, well, these agents have a lot of context and I like to work with these specific agents. And I don't like to work with 50 agents because they confuse each other. I like to work with 3 agents and that tends to be the sweet spot. What's your reaction kind of to that?
I think you just defined the problem space that I'm in right now, right? This is what I'm actively working on is like that idea of no. This is why we are here, gentlemen.
I love this. I nailed it.
So basically, I mean, this is exactly what I'm solving, right? I've solved the dev team. I've solved the project manager team, right? I've got those flows. I direct there. And so now what I'm working on is kind of spreading out and trying to figure out how to, so to backtrack a little bit, I mean, there's still plenty of experimenting and stuff on the dev team to be done, right? And a lot of that experimenting is around how do we translate human development practices and the idea of agile and these different patterns that we've created for ourselves. How do we translate that to AI? Because initially I was kind of being pretty rigid and I was like, here's the full org and there's a authority system and you have to escalate stuff here and blah blah blah. And I was like, why am I doing all this? Like AI can do all this stuff itself. It's not limited by the bandwidth that we have as humans, right? It can manage all these things without burning itself out. Going back to kind of, talking about the idea of looking at them as resources, we do have this kind of finite bandwidth because within my API, I have a rate limit, right? There's only a certain amount I can produce. So I can't necessarily spin up 1,000 agents and have them all working because I'm going to destroy my API, rate limiting. Now, we could get there, but that's, so there is some of that. And so that's why the work around the kind of burn rate and capacity that I'm doing, I think has more value than just like, look how long it took for these robots to do this work, right? It's like this can actually start projecting work in the future and start automating some of those pipelines to make it more of like, just where it's like a, Kubernetes system where it's, or Docker Swarm where it's spinning up more compute as it needs it type of thing, right? Or like have multiple API keys and it's able to kind of shift them around depending on the load on each of those API keys, right? There's all these things we can kind of, all these knobs we can turn and dials we can mess with still. And that's what's really exciting for me is now I don't have to sit and code and try to get these agent patterns figured out. Like those are figured out. Now it's just about how to orchestrate them in a way, because we're not writing code. It's about how to build a product the best and in what order, right? That's our job as humans now, is to how to define that. And that's something we've, I would say the three of us in this room have spent a lot of time over the years figuring out and thinking about is how to make teams more efficient and how to make these processes better. Because at the end of the day, that's all we need to make these systems work well. If you want to skip the testing, you want to skip proper CI, you want to skip, all these things, then you're going to have a weak product, right? Vibes don't work in production. We need to actually have systems that are going to better themselves, right? And so, yeah.
That's the promise of agentic engineering, as they're now calling it, right? I went prompt engineering, context engineering. I heard harness engineering for like a week. And then now we're, agentic engineering, and there might be some reasons to go back and forth up the stack. I think they're relatively stacked. But it is about now, trying to find a way to give it the context it needs to not ask me, right, about it. Right? You're using your code rabbit to close the loop on having to involve yourself in the PR because it's probably good enough. And even if it isn't, it costs nothing to try twice.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is code is cheap. Code is so cheap now. We can, and with these systems, you can explore many ideas once. And sorry, I did not mean to interject.
No,
sorry.
No. I want to hear more from you than from me because we don't get you here that often. But I did want to at least sneak in a couple items here. One, the economics are something you got to get your head around. You're not just recreating the human team. You're taking advantage of this weird economics. Like, for example, I was talking to Josh about this. It's like, oh, what do you, if they get to a point and they're like, oh, wait, hey, boss, do I do A or do I do B? With a human, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm glad you came to me. I don't want to spend your time on B. Do A. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll see if we want to go back and do that. No, with the agent, you say, never ask me again. Do both, and I will discard the one that displeases me. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, once you get done with that next one, guess what I want you to do next, and I'll throw that away too. Okay. there's the economics of this completely twist things around.
I'm super confused by the economics personally because in some contexts I hear nothing but like code is cheap, code is cheap, code is cheap, and you guys just repeated that. Like it is super cheap now. Do it both ways because it's that cheap. And then in other contexts, I'm hearing like Joe, you shared a link the other day, which I think really hit me, which is like my business spends like $50,000 a month now in AI compute, and it's only getting higher with every customer that I get. And the software business is more like the restaurant business now, and that to me is almost like an economic crisis. Like it's like, oh my God, everything we do now is going to have this extra cost to it because everything that we do, we need like LLM assistants to help us do it kind of better or faster or more. Like, what do you think?
So, I mean, this is nothing new, right? Cloud computing, that can be runaway costs real quick, right? Like all these systems that, and all these things we orchestrate as development teams can really add up and can really cost you a lot of money if you don't do it well. And that's no different with AI. The thing is we're in such an early space where so many people are throwing stuff to the wall to see what sticks, right? And I think you get a lot of people who haven't spent as much time as Joe and I have in this headspace and thinking about this from not only a development team perspective, but just in the world of AI and how to properly manage context and spending around that, right? I think it's part of it is just like it's such a new space. And yeah, it depends again how close you are to that what we call landmark, right? How close are you driving to that thing? And I think yeah, it's no different than I think the cloud computing is a really good example, or like serverless, right? It can all be used really well and save you a lot of money and do amazing things, but you in proper hands without proper understanding and education around it, you can spend tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars on an Amazon bill real quick if you're not careful, right? There's plenty of anecdotes there. And I guess to follow up your question, this kind of leans into what I'm really pushing for my next kind of situation is consulting. So you need to find people that are actually, dedicating themselves to the space and spend a lot of time thinking about this problem space and how to properly bring AI and agentic systems not only into your company but among your team, because that's where the real power unlock is enabling all of us to work faster, right? We can automate the boring stuff away. That's great, but there's still plenty of work for us as humans to do. And it's now more important than ever that people get on board and learn how to work with these systems and learn what makes them tick, because me talking to these things day in and day out for the last 3 years has really helped me get ready for this next phase of what we're seeing.
So you mentioned consulting. I want to pull on that thread a little bit. One, I hope you find time. I'm going to try to cut us off in the next 15. I hope you find time to specifically actually plug all the good stuff. Where can people go? How do they pay you? And then two, I am, one of the things I'm challenged with in general, but in this context as well, is leadership wants to know about the ROI, and I don't like it's useful, right? Well, that's not an answer. That is an imprecise, qualitative, subjective judgment. And in fact, there have been studies, you guys, studies. They always say studies where, well, I don't know, it didn't actually quite do it. Oh, but those studies were, that doesn't count because if I were in the study in my use case, it's different. And I think it is. But I don't have my own study where me and Josh were killing it the whole time. You've done all
Sure.
of these commits, the number's very high. What needle did it move? Not that you have a needle to move immediately, but like talk to me about how you demonstrate ROI. Because if you're doing consulting, you're going to have to point specifically to what it is that you're impacting and maybe even do a little
Sure.
bit of an A/B. Like, what if we didn't have you? How would we know?
Sure. Well, I can answer that right now. I would need to get I would need a few more data points to really give you the accurate numbers, but yeah, I can tell you how much at the end of the month my team costs to do all of this work over the last month versus how much I would charge you as an individual developer to do that work, right? I
Love
mean,
that.
What's that ratio looking like, roughly? Roughly, use any
oh,
objects you'd like
well,
to
think
characterize the size difference
easy.
between those
I'm
costs.
paying $200 a month for this team.
Probably
That
cost a
number.
little more than that
That's
as an
the number right
engineer.
It would
there.
be illegal to pay him as much as that. That's
Yeah.
too low.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, and then, some of that's where if you ask me where the AI bubble is, that's it, right? There's a lot of these companies that are off setting inference costs, and so you're able to pay a subscription and get, 10x, 100x inference for that price. But
What do you mean
also,
when you say interference?
Oh, inference. So
Oh,
like
inference. Okay.
yeah. Sorry.
No, no, that's all
Um,
good. But
and
is
so
that just another term for compute in this sense that it's
so
like you're
so when you're processing the data through the model, it's called it's inference, right? It's inference. It's I might
right,
not
right.
be
That's what I
pronouncing
mean.
it
Is
right,
like
Joe. You
if
might
you're
need to.
paying for inference, it's the same thing. Like
Yeah, it's
the
token cost.
analogy is like
It's
you're
the
paying
compute.
for
Yeah,
more
yeah,
compute. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
so it I want to as well offer a little bit. So you said 200 a month, right? In my context, I cannot have a max sub. I cannot pay 200 a month for the work that I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it's a yet thing. We don't trust Anthropic's API. We use
Right.
AWS Bedrock, and I am paying retail for tokens. And so I'm trying to get my leadership comfortable with the idea of dropping $10,000 a month on tokens,
Right.
$20,000 a month on tokens, okay,
And
for some of the
and
stuff I'm looking to push.
And when I'm thinking, like, I'm not necessarily looking to jump into enterprise and try to solve enterprise level problems with my system, right? This is about
You're
experimenting this
crazy.
quickly, and this is about getting people's teams comfortable with what's possible with these systems, right? Like, I'm not going to try to pretend that I can produce a system and sell it to you that's going to beat Anthropic or OpenAI. But what I can tell you is that if we all use these open source tools and build these communities and, continue to learn and grow, we can actually compete with some of these bigger companies, right? And I think that's what that's the message I really want to spread with all this. I want to empower the small companies. I want to empower the individual person. I want to empower the creative people that, maybe didn't spend 10 years learning how to code. I want to be able to take ideas and produce, solid production ready prototypes, demos that you can build on from there with your team and however you want, right? You can solve your 30-year-old code base. That's your deal, right? That's not the problems I'm here to solve. I'm looking for the future and how to do things faster, better, and cheaper, right?
Yeah. Y'all probably work at companies that are doing a little better with AI. I've talked to a couple people recently, and the story was the same between them, which I found interesting. Their CEOs are real excited about AI, right? It's about time, and they're like, guys, a little worried our business might be threatened here by someone else who uses AI to just do what's taken us 10 years to build overnight or whatever. So they feel this existential threat at the corporate level. We've talked about existential threat a lot at like the individual level, but there's this corporate existential threat. And I find it funny that they're kind of bringing it to the employees in these examples. We're like, guys, and I'm not talking like, hey, leadership, what do you guys think we should do here? It's like employees on the ground. Do you have any ideas? How can we leverage AI? We need to be AIing right now. And I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm afraid if we don't, that we're done for. So what ideas do you guys have? And I find it to be so interesting that these engagements are happening, I'm sure, at tons of companies.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is going to be a little interesting. So, I don't actually I'm currently full time on this. So, I was a victim of layoffs several months ago, and so yeah, I've been on my own doing this for months. And I think to kind of go into your question a bit, it feels like it circles back earlier about this idea of like, oh, why am I spending $50,000 a month on compute, and why aren't these ideas actually working? If you're a CEO listening, my biggest recommendation would be to find the person in your organization who spends all their time reading, researching, and devoting themselves to this, and ask
You
them.
guys.
Ask them
Right.
what you think would move the needle and raise that ROI. Because if you're following LinkedIn, if you're following Twitter and all the hype trains, you're too late. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck behind, and you're listening to people whose sole motivation is to drive that interaction and drive that content forward. What we need to be doing is listening to the person who's not saying much, who's just buried in their corner, typing away frantically at the keyboard, just trying to take advantage of this technology.
We have 8 minutes left. What do we want to do with it?
I think we need to plan our part two.
Man, I'm so
think-
excited. I know.
That's a
Yeah,
pattern,
we spent our hour catching up, and
Yeah, I
from there
know.
we figure
Dude,
out where we're going.
I debated being like, no, we can go over. No, I'm cutting your ass off and you have to show back up.
Yeah, I got more. We gotta get back to work. Okay.
Yeah, that way we can.
Yeah. I'm going down more visuals and stuff.
Listen, I mean, whenever you're, itching, when you start feeling itchy, all right, when you're itching, you come back and see us, okay? I don't want to be like,
Yeah,
oh, we'll
yeah,
see you in like a month, or I want you itching. I want you, I want to show, you're going to be like, I'll
yeah,
tell you
yeah, yeah.
guys
I
what I
hear you.
did, or if you've somehow run into a bunch of money and would like to share it or something, you can come on
Sure.
too.
Sharing is caring.
Where we're going to spend it, like, oh, I don't know where to invest all this money. Like, you can come there too. That also counts as itching.
No, no, no. I am excited to come back and show you what I've been working on. Basically, yeah, I've got a bunch of content coming out. Right now, you can reach me at hello@protolabs.consulting. We can get a link in here so you can check that out. But
Absolutely.
yeah, by the time this episode airs, the whole system should be a little bit more robust, and some of the marketing stuff will come out, and there'll be a little bit more kind of social, public facing content from me. So, and y'all will be a part of that because this is in a lot of ways how it started, and so I've been kind of out of the public eye and kind of keeping to myself for a while, and I'm ready to jump back out there, and I'm excited to have you guys help me kick that off. So,
Love that, dude. I have a bit of a parting question. I think um, something that has always been important to me when I see anybody working on anything is to define a beachhead. I feel like every single time it becomes a really valuable conversation. And in this case, I'm curious, Josh, who do you see as your key audience? Like, are you trying to, for example, empower CEOs to build whatever they want without the need for a dev team? Are you trying to empower engineers to be their own CEO and build anything that they want? Who do you see as like your key user? What are they doing, or what have they been doing, in their careers up to this point? And what's their title going to be after this revolution, and who's getting left behind, you know?
yeah, that's heady. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah, no,
mean,
just one quick question, and
no,
then
no,
we're
yeah,
out of
yeah,
here.
just quick, nothing much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, truthfully, I
But
think
most importantly,
kind of,
who are you building for? Sorry to be specific.
no,
So it's
no,
not so
I'm
extreme.
building for myself, right? I'm building these tools and these systems in the
That's the way
way
to go.
I've thought of them, and I've been trying to share, or I have been sharing a lot of this stuff with people over the last few years, and with being a full time employee, it was hard to find the time to take action on a lot of my ideas. Even though I spent nights and weekends kind of doing it, still now I have actually a full time and can properly sleep and all that good stuff on top of it to really focus on this. But it's really for people who have a knowledge of how these systems come together, right? And just want to work faster. I'm not trying to solve everyone's problems. I'm trying to find people that think in a similar way to me about these problems and how these tools should work, how products should come to, production and release. And yeah, I'm not trying to make a lovely or a hey, you pop your idea in here and you have a production ready app. What I am saying is you have some knowledge and use what I've learned, and I'm willing to teach you, and you're going to be working a lot faster and getting to the destination that much cheaper and that much sooner.
So it does sound that you're very much engineer focused for your audience.
Product, I mean, it's really anybody I've kind of been adjacent to over the last few years, right? Anybody in product, right? If you're a product manager with some knowledge of development, of some architecture, right? It's just how far have you spread your understanding of this world over your tenure? What do you know, and how can you apply that to these systems? I'm just trying to unlock that for you, right?
That's really interesting. The way that you put that almost makes it sound like, oh, if I'm if I'm a PM, then I'm a shield bearer, and if I'm an engineer, then I'm a swordsman. And you're building tools that create an agentic sword for the PM and an agentic shield for the engineer. And so you're kind of almost leveling a playing field and helping people fill in the gaps in their skill set that they may not
Exactly.
have regardless.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. So one thing we didn't really get into this demo, and next time I'll have
Next
kind of
week,
more.
if you're available. I'm not looking
Yeah,
to
we can-
delay.
yeah.
I'm ready to
No,
keep
I'm-
rocking.
Listen,
Like
maybe
I
you
said,
get
this is
itchy in a
full time
couple
on this.
days. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, I'll let you know when the itch starts. All right. Um, but let's see here. Actually, we are running short on time. I don't want to take too
I was
much
going to
time
cut you
here.
off in
No,
like
good.
2 minutes if you wanted to
Final
sneak in a
thoughts.
last thought though. Get those final thoughts out though. What are some parting thoughts at the very least?
Yeah, so I mean, basically my mind's on fire right now. So yes, I remember here I was going to close this out. So basically, yeah, the Ava system I'm working on is, fully architected to work with me and what I know and what I need to know. And it has access to read write access to the systems that I need to have access to. And obviously, because where I'm at in the org, it's a lot. I've got a lot of permissions, but I have a friend who's coming on to help me with kind of some content strategy and go to market stuff. And basically, my promise to him is that I'm building him a GTM agent that'll work with the system in that capacity. And within doing that, I'm gonna look at helping him automate some of his work from home job so that he has more time to help me work on Protolabs. So
And this
there
is
will
a
be more
friend
there.
that bleeds, right? Okay.
Yes, it's a real friend. This is a real we. And so that's my idea is kind of, eventually it'll be the system meets you where you are, right? And kind of adapts your knowledge. But right now it's obviously, we're working towards that. And it's like I said, by the minute, I think we had 2 tickets pass through to done while we were chatting. So
I love it, brother. I know we're all already dying for part 2, so let's make it happen as soon as we can.
No, it's just been great. I'm so excited to be catching up with y'all, and we'll be back at it soon.
Thanks so
All right.
much.
Well, I am gonna cut us off there. This is been wonderful to catch up with you. Sounds like the people you want to come talk to are the people who like to build it faster.